Yeah. I saw on your Instagram that you were one of the people who, the Israeli government has kind of collected and amalgamated a bunch of footage from the
Yeah.
the massacre that Hamas perpetuated on Israel on October 7th, and you were able to see that footage. I'm curious, like at a higher level or more of a you know descriptive level, like because I don't understand. Like I think despite how horrible these images are, I think my personal opinion is that people should see what this looks
I
like,
agree.
what happens. And I'm curious if you could, because a lot of, unfortunately, like you can see some stuff on Twitter, but a lot of these images have not been made public. I'm curious if you could just describe kind of what you saw and like how this kind of experience informed the way that you view, what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know if it really changed um, the way I see what's going on there because, like, the evidence of what had happened is pretty clear. And I had spoken with people who experienced it firsthand. So like, I wasn't surprised to see what I saw, but I was at the same time just seeing it was shocking. I've never seen footage like that. Um, It was 47 minutes. I mean, and I went to a military base. I had to get in touch with the IDF spokesperson's unit, and I went to a military base and had to. It was me and um, 9 or 10 members of parliament from the UK.
Hmm.
Um, and first, we saw all of like the materiel that Hamas had essentially left behind in Israel after October 7th, and it was RPGs, and it was unexploded grenades, and it was motorcycles, and it was suicide drones, and all of these things that we saw them first. All of the guns, everything, and then we saw the film, and I had to lock up my camera, I had to lock up my phone, I had to sign a waiver saying that I wouldn't record anything, but I had pen and paper, and I just took notes on everything that I was seeing, and it was just frantic. I took like 5 pages of scratch notes over the 47 minutes. It was the most depraved thing by far that I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I mean, it was first hand, essentially like body cam and cell phone footage, mostly from Hamas themselves, like that had been captured from Hamas fighters on October 7th, where they were essentially recording, whether it was on a GoPro or just their cell phone or a movie camera, whatever it was, the things that they were doing. Um, or it was from CCTV footage, which that was probably like the smallest amount. And then there was video from like Israelis' cell phones also, um, who were recording their friends dancing at the Nova Festival, and then you see see and hear shots, or they were in their car, they're hiding in a bomb shelter or a bunker, and they're like recording videos because they don't know what's going to happen and they want some sort of like record for people to see. Um, so that's what the footage is. And it's basically like the only way to describe it is like they went hunting people for sport. Um, there's no like nice or diplomatic way to say it. They were overjoyed and elated in killing civilians, killing killing people, killing women, children, men, young, old. They it was like killing for sport. They, I mean, like the most impactful ones that I think will like stick with me for a really long time. This is like I pretty much broke down right after I saw this. Um, at first, it was just kind of whoever they. I didn't think they realized that it would take the IDF so long to respond, and they ended up having a lot more time to kind of like take their time with like Israeli captives and torture and torment. I think their goal in the beginning was just we're going to get in, we're going to kill as many people as possible, and get out, or just, we'd be engaged in a firefight with the IDF like pretty immediately. And that didn't happen for hours and days in some places. Um, so it started out just shooting anybody on the road who they encountered, um, literally just shooting into cars. And then it was, um, you saw CCTV footage and them going into individual houses um, on the kibbutzim, the villages that they attacked. One of them that really stuck with me was on a CCTV. You saw two young brothers, are probably like 8 and 10 years old, and their dad. It was very early in the morning, so they were all like, in their pajamas, running like through the kitchen, through their like little backyard, into like their bomb shelter, which is to the side. And then you see these two Hamas fighters jump over the fence and just throw a grenade into the bomb shelter. And then you see the dad's body fall covered in blood. And then the kids come out and they're like in shock, and the kids are covered in blood. The kids walk back into the kitchen and they're just sitting there and in shock. And one kid goes, "Is this real? Is this real? I can't believe," like, and his brother saying to him, "Yes, it's real." And he's like blinded, his eye was blown out, and his brother was taking care of him. And then this Hamas fighter just comes in and starts rummaging through their fridge, and just starts like chugging a bottle of Coke from the fridge and tells them to just like sit down and shut up. And the kids are frantic. And then you see on the CCTV footage, eventually like the kibbutz security comes, and the mom comes with the security team from the kibbutz, and she sees that her husband had been blown up, and that her two sons had run away, and they actually survived. Um, and and then you see, I mean, there's so much. You saw, one that really stuck with me was, there was like a group of maybe like 10 Israeli girls, like 18, 19 years old, hiding in what looked like, almost like where they keep like cows. It was just like, look kind of like a big like tin iron building, whatever. Um, and they were hiding there. And then all of a sudden, this Hamas, terrorist comes in, and they go, "Oh my God, who is that? Who is that?" They didn't know what was going on, and they were filming, themselves. And then you see, they're getting yelled at, and then a few minutes later, you see footage from a Hamas cell phone or camera of, in this exact same room, um, basically all of these women are covered in blood, but half of them are lying dead on the ground, who had clearly just been sexually assaulted because they had blood coming from between their legs, and clearly victims of rape. And the Hamas fighters are kind of just like going around, like one guy's going around with a camera and just like interviewing all of his friends, and you see these 4 or 5 Israeli girls just covered in blood. Their friends are lying dead on the floor. You have to assume they had just seen get raped in front of their eyes, and who knows what happened to these other women. Um, and you see them going around, and it reminded me, like what I wrote down, it reminded me of like a locker room after like after a sports game. These guys are just kind of like sitting there. They were young guys. They look exhausted. They had the Hamas headbands. They had guns, and they were just kind of like sitting there smoking cigarettes, um, talking to their commanders, and just kind of like saying like, we're here, you know, Alhamdulillah, and we're here to set Gaza free, and kill Israelis, and etc. That really stuck with me. Another one was, this story came out recently. There were two decapitations in this video. One was one that was like pretty popular going around, Telegram, where it was like a Thai, worker, that they basically like decapitated him with a shovel or some sort of garden tool. And then another one, which I think is probably what was in the news recently, where they were selling decapitated IDF soldier's head for like $10,000. They were trying to sell it in Gaza. That I was actually surprised that they actually showed it. They have more footage that they didn't show because they think it would be too traumatizing, but like that the IDF didn't show because they think it'd be too traumatizing of sexual assault. But this one, some Hamas terrorists like took out a knife that was like the size of like a big steak knife and just chopped off this dead IDF soldier's head, and then called his commander, or called his commander before, and you hear his commander say, bring it back to Gaza. We're gonna let the kids kick it around like a soccer ball in the street. Um, and then the last one that really stuck with me, I would say, like I'm sure more I could recount everything, but another one that really stuck with me was, I think it was on an army base. I wasn't sure exactly where it was. It wasn't clear, but there were three or four young girls. They might have been like young IDF soldiers who were hiding under a table in a room that had been like already shot up and destroyed, and they were like in shock. And two Hamas terrorists walk in and say, "Hey, I found a few more. I found a few more. Bring your camera, and like bring your phone. Like record this." And they shot a few of them under the table, and either they weren't killed immediately or the guy didn't get a good shot. So the other guy said to him, like, hold on, I didn't get a good shot. Pull them out. Let's do that again. And this happened at a few different points where they were like, they found somebody hiding and they were like, they called their friend over to say, hey, record this. So they like pulled out these three or four like 18, 19-year-old girls. And the guy, like, it was like a director, the guy who was holding the phone, the camera, was like, pull them out, like put the light on them and like shoot them in the back of the head. And you saw this, like you saw them shoot these kids in the back of the head and then record it and celebrate it and like leave a message for their friends and parents. Like, hey mom, hey dad, look what I did. Um, none of this is surprising because Hamas has been very clear about how they feel about Israelis and what their intentions were, and they were live streaming this themselves for the world to see. So none of this was surprising that they did this, but at the same point, it was still extremely shocking as a human being to see this happen to other, for human beings to so easily do this to other human beings is, it's shocking, it's terrifying. And on a personal level, as you know, being a Jewish person who has a lot of friends and some family in Israel, these are people that, you know, who I'm seeing being executed. These are literally friends of friends. These are people who my friends know.